Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Well, here we go. The 3-year anniversary of the January 6th riot/insurrection. I haven't seen this much bull from the mainstream media in my lifetime, and I'm 67. Let's read on. I don't get it. MSNBC anchor Jonathan Capehart burst into tears while discussing the January 6th Capitol protest with ex-police officer Michael Fannon on Saturday. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago. Please tell us your thoughts on this third anniversary, as Capehart was fighting back tears. Oh no! It's amazing to me. Let's watch the short clip.
America council member and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. Officer Fanone, I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you.
Have you seen such bull ever on mainstream media? I've seen lives. I've seen this. This guy is holding back tears. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's watch the rest. It's a short video.
For what you did 3 years ago today. Please tell me your thoughts on this third anniversary.
We are still in the midst of the same fight that began on January 6th, 2000.
What a lie. A total lie. Let's watch the beginning again.
Is Michael Fanone, former D.C. Metropolitan Police officer, Courage for America council member, and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's.
Oh, it's a New York Times bestseller. Oh, so he gets to make a crap load of money. It's amazing to me. Where were these? This is MSNBC, which is the worst of the worst, and that's a pretty high bar. Where were these guys crying? I think it was either Portland or Seattle. I forget which one. When they were trying to firebomb a federal building with federal employees and federal agents inside to burn them alive. Luckily, it didn't happen, but they certainly tried. Where was he crying then? I haven't seen so much bull. It's amazing to me. I mean, this makes the National Enquirer look credible. Of course he has a book. And John Shipman. Oh, that's probably the guy that wrote it. But they just need his name and then they say police officers died on January 6th. That's another lie. Or the death was caused by the riot on January 6th. Another lie. And then Pelosi and Schumer and all those lunatics put the police officer that died and stayed in the rotunda. Do I feel bad that a police officer several days after had a stroke and died? That over the next year or so, 4 police officers committed suicide? Had nothing to do with January 6th. They put them on display at the rotunda. The same place where heads of former presidents, former Supreme Court justices, and other dignitaries are placed, where the body of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who had the top of his head blown off by an assassin, sat at the rotunda on display for people to pay their respects to. It's amazing to me. It's incredible. What's interesting, though, is this. Fannon is among a group of Capitol Police officers who became overnight heroes to people who spent 9 months chanting, "All cops are bastards, no justice, no peace." After rioting is the language of the unheard, was used to justify months-long riots and assaults on police. The same people have heaped praise upon Fannon and his colleagues, such as Harry Dunn, for their heroism displayed during the minor riot. It was minor. Anything that was busted was fixed in a day. It wasn't an insurrection. Here's the question of all you left psychos out there. How many people that were involved in the riot on January 6th were charged with insurrection? I'll wait. Maybe I'll play the Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy theme song. Do, 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 do. The answer is 0. President Trump's off of ballots because of his insurrection. Was he ever charged with insurrection? No. Which means he never stood trial, didn't go through the due process. Not one single person in jail, or currently having a sentence, or found not guilty, was charged with insurrection. Not a single one. Oh, God. Elsewhere in the interview, Caphart asked Fannin about former President Donald Trump's promise to pardon January 6 prisoners if reelected. That's not what he said. Another lie of omission. Another sentence that's full of bull. He said the people that were nonviolent that just basically walked in and trespassed. Nobody that broke anything, nobody that assaulted anybody, none of those people, he said he would pardon. He would go through on an individual basis. How damaging is it for Trump to label those violent rioters who were criminally charged and convicted as hostages? The MSNBC host asked it. I mean, you got to think about those individuals that received those lengthy sentences. Oh, by the way, what about all the rioting that happened in Washington during the inauguration ceremony, January 20th, 2017, with President Trump? Cars were burned. Hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. And you know what happened? Not only were the people that caused the rioting and destruction not charged, they turned around and sued, and the city of Washington, D.C. had to pay them. Pay them for burning up a guy's limousine, a bunch of cars, smashing windows, stores looted. They got paid. Meanwhile, if you walked into the Capitol with a little dinky flag, that old lady, and walked around, looked at the ceiling, going, oh, cool, you got 6 months plus in jail, some several years. It's incredible to me, incredible to me. Now let's continue on with this farce. U.S. Attorney suggests DOJ will now target Americans who stood outside the Capitol building on January 6th. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves, suggested that his office will be targeting thousands of Americans who stood outside the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. Don't you remember? It was worse than 9/11. They tried to overthrow our government. What do you think? This is the Bastille in medieval France? Where if you take over the castle, you are now the king? By the way, now President Biden, formerly vice president, said, you can't take over a country. You need planes and weapons and tanks. You can't just do it with guns. These people are idiots. And then turned around and said they try to take over the government. And by the way, in less than an hour and a half, they did their voting on the Electoral College. Nothing really changed. During a press conference earlier this week, Graves suggested that his office will soon be targeting Americans who stood outside the building or on Capitol grounds. Important note when it comes to our prosecutions about those who remain outside the building, we have used our prosecutorial discretion. And there's the term. To primarily focus on those who enter the building or those who engage in violent or corrupt conduct on Capitol grounds. What is corrupt conduct? Everybody knows what violence is. If a person knowingly entered the restricted area without authorization, I mean, when the cops opened the door and let hundreds of people in, they had already committed a federal crime. Make no mistake, thousands of people occupied an area that were not authorized to be present in the first place. I mean, like when the Hart building, the Senate building, every single floor was taken over by protesters, mostly women, concerning abortion laws, and shut down the Hart building, in essence, shut down the U.S. Senate temporarily. You know how many of those were charged? I'll play the little Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy thing again. Do, 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 do. The answer, 0. On the same day that Graves hinted that January 6th Capitol protests could result in thousands of arrests, when all is said and done, a far-left rioter bragged about receiving $24,000 check for his role in the George Floyd rebellion. The city of New York has paid me and 300 others $24,000 each for beating us and detaining us without rights in the Bronx during the 2020 George Floyd rebellion. He didn't say protest, he said rebellion. And then he referred to New York City Mayor Eric Adams, the Zionist pig, and vowed to donate his check fund to Palestine. And there's a picture of the check. They got paid in New York City. New York is one of several blue cities that paid out cash settlements to violent BLM rioters. Now let's listen to part of this BS from President Biden, of all places, Valley Forge. These people have no shame.
40 police officers were injured. Jill and I attended the funeral of police officers who died as a result of the events of that day.
That's a lie. No police officer died on the events of that day. That's a lie. It's not even a stretch of the truth. It's not even a matter of interpretation. It's an outright lie.
Because of Donald Trump's lies, they died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was. He told the crowd to fight like hell, and all hell was unleashed. He promised he would write them, everything they did. He would be side by side with them. Then, as usual, he left the dirty work to others. He retreated to the White House. As America was attacked from within, Donald Trump watched on TV in a private small dining room off the Oval Office. The entire nation watched in horror. The whole world watched.
That's enough. That's enough. It's incredible to me. The bullshit. I'm not going to say it right. I'm not even going to bleep myself out. It's incredible. Jill and I attended the funerals of police officers who died as a result of the events that day because Donald Trump's lies. It's bullshit. They died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. How many riots were there in 2020 when your vice president said you're going to continue to riot and they shouldn't stop and they won't stop, and then promoted a webpage to donate money for the very few that were arrested during the riots in 2020 to get bail money? And as you saw, the rioters had millions of dollars in destruction. Luckily, nobody was killed in D.C. on Inauguration Day in 2017. They got paid. These people suck so bad, I can't even tell you. Numerous Democrat leaders and officials, including President Biden, have repeated the false claim that Capitol Police officers were murdered by the crowd on January 6th. That's a lie. And how come none of them have been charged with murder? None of them have been charged with insurrection. The vast majority are simple trespassing, and then they got them with disruption of a government officials, which is a felony supposedly. Officer Brian Sicknick passed away in the days following the protest, so the cause of death was determined to be natural causes. He had a stroke, had nothing to do. This not stop the mainstream media outlets and Democrats from spreading a lie that Sicknick was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. Remember that one? However, President Biden, the First Lady, did attend Sicknick's funeral and attributed his death to the protesters. An additional 4 officers committed suicide in the weeks and months following the protest. These facts have not stopped officials from lying, as Attorney General Merrick Garland repeated the same falsehood just hours before his boss spoke at Valley Forge. Over the course of several hours, law enforcement officers defending the Capitol that day are the ones who are grieving for the 5 officers that lost their lives in the line of duty as a result of what happened on January 6th. That's a lie. It's not even exaggeration. They don't care anymore. They'll just outright lie. Today's a ceremony to honor the heroes. While still cordoning off the Capitol because threats by these sickened insurrectionists continue to be propagated on the internet again, all of America saw what happened when Officer Evans was killed defending a checkpoint you had to go through to get to the Capitol because of these god-awful sick threats that continue to move forward, Biden said. That's a lie. They actually have a video of a Capitol police officer being killed defending a checkpoint. That's a lie. And the whole world saw it. No, we didn't. And in fact, a terabyte and a half of information, and any of you computer people out there don't know, a terabyte and a half is a crap ton of video, depositions, everything, emails from the so-called January 6th committee just mysteriously disappeared. Isn't that interesting? Video interviews, videos inside the Capitol. And not only is it hard to believe, yeah, it's hard to believe because it's bullshit. It's hard to believe it happened here in America. Well, ask all the people that died and had their businesses destroyed. And many of them are minorities, I might add. Generations old businesses now gone, burnt to the ground. Didn't say a peep. In fact, you encouraged them. The president failed to mention that the killer, Noah Green, described himself as a founder of an anti-white extremist group. He also failed to mention that the unrelated incident took place weeks after the Capitol protests. Oh, so he was killed defending a checkpoint, but not on January 6th. It's amazing to me. And there's millions that believe this bullshit. He is splitting our country. Anybody that supports Donald Trump is an insurrectionist, a white supremacist, is anti-American, anti-democracy, kicks puppies, doesn't like babies, blah, 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 blah. Why do they do this? Because it's all they have left. Keeping President Trump off the ballot in many states, and this BS is all they have left. It's incredible to me. Even I didn't think they would go this far. Not just stretch the truth, not just have a weird opinion on an event, to outright lie. Enough is enough. And it's just beginning. This is the beginning of January, the first week of the presidential election year. And already he's given his speech at Valley Forge, of all places, where Washington kept his army together and intact throughout a terrible winter and terrible circumstances of cold, non-supplies, non-food. Those were real patriots there. Those are the ones that put their own bodies on the line and their own lives on the line for what they believed in. Not these clowns. Incredible to me. Anyway, folks, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. What do you think? And until next time, goodbye and good luck.